Hello and welcome to the show. I am here at the top of Mt Chiliad for some more downhill chaos. My first vehicle today is the Chevrolet Celta. I think that's how it's pronounced, or Celta or something like that. This is quite a curious one. I'm very, very interested to see how this vehicle does, as it too is based on the Ingot, the same vehicle that the Daewoo was based on. So yeah, I was interested to be comparing the two vehicles. Another front-wheel drive car, this one, but not the fastest of cars, certainly. Fortunately, we don't have the same slightly peculiar, sort of the front-heavy nature of the Daewoo with this car. Much more stable, much nicer to drive on its way down the mountain. My first attempt, I actually get the back of the car caught going across some bumps. It's quite low, and I get the back caught, and it kind of just drags the car around, and I can't really gather it all back up again in time. So we get spat out. It's an unusual place to have a car end up after a crash, but there we go. The next run down, I just pushed it a little bit too hard. Thought I could get away with carrying more speed through that section than I could. Ran a little bit wide, and not really a good place to be running wide. Again, not a major accident for the Chevrolet, but it was just enough to cause it some problems. Managed to get it to roll. Not very often I roll a car down that part of the map. We kind of twisted it off the rock. The initial sort of turn one wasn't a problem, but it was the landing that bounced it across the other side and rolling, and then we met some bushes, and then it all went, yeah, just went a little bit wrong. It was actually going pretty well with this car. I was really happy with this run. We got a big amount of airtime over the second jump, but we kept it all together. We were really fast down the side road, and it just bounced sideways on its way towards the second to last corner. It just hit the bump a little too awkwardly for the car to be able to deal with it, and got it spun it. It didn't even get spun around properly. I tried frantically to save it, but there was nothing I could do. Nothing I could do about the vehicle. Again, at this jump, we've seen this with a couple of cars actually. When you hit the landing, the front of the car gets kicked up into the air. I mean, this time it wasn't quite as spectacular enough. I could still get the car stopped and turned, and in the end it was the bushes and the rocks on the outside that ruined it. But yeah, getting that bounce up on the landing. The fast jump, I took it a slightly wonky angle that meant when we landed, rather than landing on the nice sort of path, we ended up on the mounds of dirt, and that kind of threw the car off course. Coming down this side road, I got the car through the bushes. I was trying to be a bit too quick through there. We survived the first of the major bushes. It did just pull the car ever so slightly, and then the next one pulled it enough to lose control. Yeah, the blooming foliage down there is really, really annoying to deal with in the small sort of the small light cars. They can have some real issues. Again, it was just cases of I was trying frantically to drive as quick as I could. It was kind of one of these annoying cars. It never really felt particularly challenging to drive, but actually took quite a number of attempts as I kept trying to take more and more speed, because I kept feeling like the car could manage it, and then you just make slightly silly mistakes here and there. So yeah, this took probably longer than it should have done, with me trying to get it to go faster and faster through some of these sections. I mean, on the whole, it wasn't a bad car to drive down here. Certainly, we didn't have the problems at all that we saw with the Daewoo. This wasn't going sort of nose down over every jump. It wasn't horribly oversteery as well. The Daewoo's incredibly light back end when you go around these corners. It doesn't take very much at all to spin the Daewoo around, but with this, we didn't have them problems. It was just a nice front-wheel drive hatchback. Slightly underpowered, which is, yeah, perhaps not too surprising. We don't really have, that much in the way of straight line speed in this vehicle. But you see over these jumps, it just deals with them so much better than we saw that the Daewoo managed. And the corners, I mean, it handled pretty well. Had to be a little bit careful. It only ever did the bouncing up to do a wheelie on one attempt through there, where I had the big off. The rest of the time it was very, very controlled. After the first run through here, I had hoped that we could actually be flat out down here. Not quite. We did still have to have a little lift to get the vehicle settled. Yeah, the first time I actually made it that far, I did get it flat out, but couldn't do it again without having big accidents. Avoiding the bushes on the way down towards the second to last corner. This time, not having any problems with the horrible bumps. Just a slight dab on the brakes because I was heading towards the bushes for the final turn, and across the line for the Chevrolet. Unfortunately, I just Just couldn't quite get it turned in time to avoid bumping the tree. That tree has claimed many a car over the last few episodes as we fly across the jump. Yeah, I mean, the Chevrolet was a decent car. I made a few mistakes trying to push the vehicle more and more. I kept thinking we could carry just that little bit more speed through some of the turns, but yeah, on the whole, pretty decent front-wheel drive hatchback when it comes to driving down Chiliad. Up next, the Citroen 2CV. I saw this on the forums, and it was or on the website, sorry, and it was a must. Had to have a go with the Citroen. This one with it replaces the Glendale, has its own custom handling file though, so yeah, it's not quick. It's not quick at all. However, I was curious to see how this thing would do. Yeah, certainly not expecting this to set the leaderboard on fire. It's kind of more of a question of would the city slidey drifty cars that are at the bottom of the table at the moment, would they actually would they have a faster time than this one? I got a little carried away on the first run there, managing to stick it straight into some of the slow down bushes. You had to be really careful with this car and avoid the bushes. They messed this car up so much because it was incredibly slow to begin with. The first attempt was going, well, it wasn't going particularly well. I lost control of it on the final jump. Again, landing it a little bit awkwardly, not landing it neatly on the path, caused me to end up in some bushes and lose some time. Again, I figured that this car here being so slow, I could take the jump flat out. You could kind of get away with it, but then you ended up carrying so much speed down here that the car just didn't have the grip to deal with it, and then you rolled it on the way down here, bounced off a couple of trees before eventually coming to a rest. Yeah, you were going slow enough that you could take that final jump flat out, but it meant you kind of got messed up for the little escape roady bits. So yeah, you had to have a slight dab on the brakes. It only took, I think, third or fourth run with this car that I would get it down the mountain cleanly, because provided you avoided the bushes, there really wasn't too much to worry about, as this car was, yeah, really quite slow. There's just no straight line speed, which, let's face it, is accurate in a 2CV. They were not renowned for being the world's fastest of cars. I would love to have these in Forza 6, have some 2CV racing. They must race 2CVs. I'm pretty sure they have like a Beetle Fun Cup. I was assuming there is a similar thing for 2CVs. Yeah, it's just incredibly slow. You don't need to worry about the handbrake for the hairpin. You're not really going fast enough to cause any major issues. And again, sort of coming down here, you still got to be aware. Even at the lower speeds, you can make mistakes. You can get yourself caught out, especially with these bankings. It's the bushes and so on that are the real issue through here, because you have so little power and so little speed. Whereas you can get away occasionally clipping one ever so slightly with some of the faster cars. If you clip it with this, you're done for, because you will lose all momentum. They'll often just stop the car dead. So yeah, got to make sure that you avoid all of them. Have a little dab on the brakes as we go across the jump, and get it all under control for this side bit. Yeah, you can't take too much speed down here. Being a rather top-heavy car, it's quite easy to get it into trouble, and then just minding the bumps a little bit down here. But on there, again, you're not going quick enough for them to cause any problem. We had a tiny slide out of the 2CV around the final corner, and the Citroen is across the line. And we get it stopped without bumping into anything. Actually makes it down completely damage-free, I think. And of course, with not carrying enough speed to go into any of the trees, yeah, it ends up down here cleanly. It's just not got any speed to it, which is what we expected from the 2CV. You're not expecting it to be massively fast. No major problems with the car, aside from you've got to stay away from the bushes. And now our final vehicle for today, well, from one of the slowest cars to a really rather fast one. Aston Martin GT3 Vantage. This one has also got a custom handling file to make it quicker, more grip. However, it does give it stiffer suspension, which I feared could cause slight issues on this sort of a course and sort of lower ride height as well. We have an almighty wing. The Aston Martin GT3 car has a crazy wing, and we spit fire out of the side exhaust, which is always cool. Yeah, I mean, this has a wing not quite as impressive as the Bentleys, but it's not far off. Certainly not far off at all. You see the speed that we get from this car off the launch. Very quick. This vehicle. The hikers, well, I'm not sure if I jumped clear of them or if one of them lost their head. Either way, it didn't really affect my trajectory. We fire it up down here. There's so much speed it catches me out as we go across the bumps. Car gets sort of fired sideways. I'm not quite sure why it's got tinted windows. If you look from cockpit view, you see out of them fine. Yeah, I don't know quite why we have the tinted windows from outside. The curse of the hikers is back. Hikers were blooming sat just over the crest of the launch, because you're going so fast in this car. Hit them with some force, and as the hiker was tumbling down the mountain, it kind of got tangled with the car, and that sent the car flying off the course. I think that's about probably the earliest we've had a crash. I'm not sure if we've had any cars fall off the mountain in that particular place before. We may have done. It'll probably have been because of a hiker, let's be honest. Yeah, it was so much speed, and a hiker at a bad place was enough to send the Aston Martin flying off the course. I did have to kind of be a little bit careful with the amount of grip. We've seen this from high grip cars before. The Voltic had a tendency to fall over, and the Aston Martin was keeping with that trend. Yeah, I was trying to carry speed around that turn, and the combination of the hilly nature of the course and the huge grip from the Aston Martin saw it roll over. And again, if you weren't careful, there's certainly a lot of turning, a lot of grip in this car. It could get quite twitchy. When things started going wrong, if you kind of got it badly across some bumps, you could lose control of the car quite quickly. And again, another moment of just so much grip, and the combination of the grip and the hills was enough to put the car up on its side. I think the wing actually stopped it from rolling over fully that time, but yeah, either way, it was a ruined run. The brakes were mighty powerful in this as well, so you had to kind of adjust your braking points in places that you weren't quite used to. So down there, I thought, I'll brake at what I thought was a good place for a car with this kind of performance. Far too early, and I was already committed to turning in. So the car ended up across the silly part, and yeah, that was out of it. The hikers were being a little bit in the way. I'm not sure if I was spinning or whether I think the hiker may have just helped me finish off that spin. Landed awkwardly on the nose of the car, and yeah, the hiker being there didn't help. He wanted a fight, but you're not going to catch an Aston Martin race car as I carried on flying down the mountain. Again, the brakes caught me out. I turned in a little bit too soon to the hairpin. And, well, a similar story as we had at the corner before. Yeah, if you got it up onto two wheels with the amount of grip and the amount of speed that this thing had, it was very, very easy to see it tumble over. Another got caught out on the bumps, and we go for a spectacular kind of flat spin roll on that one there. Yeah, a bump caught me out, and if you end up out of position just slightly with this car, it is so fast it will get you in all sorts of trouble. Again, I was climbing back up to get back on the road. I just didn't realise how much acceleration there is in this, that it fired me well clear of the course. There was just silly amounts of speed in the Aston Martin. It was one of these cars, much like when I did the vehicles with the top speed mod, the increased top speed mod, when I raced them down here, you had to be so careful because the speed of this car would really catch you out. And yeah, that was something that you had to be aware of. Of course, that doesn't mean it is mighty, mighty fast on the brief bits of the course where you can unleash all of the power. The downsides, the suspension is quite low, and the bumps do cause issues for this vehicle, so you do have to be cautious at some place. I mean, even on this run, you see going through that hairpin where I kept well clear of the inside sort of banking, it still kind of wanted to start lifting up onto two wheels, so you just can't afford to hit any of the bankings. It's around corners like these that the suspension, it wasn't quite ideal around here. It couldn't quite deal with the turns as nicely. I mean, this lap here, yeah, it was, or this descent, if you like, was neater. We actually end up out a little bit wide through that next turn, and still fighting for control of the car as we come across the final jump. I lost a little bit of time down there fighting the vehicle. It just, it's a race car. It's not really designed to be dealing with the demands of an off-road course and two-wheeled action around the second to last corner. Let's face it, it's not exactly surprising. A race car doesn't particularly fancy the off-road course, and the amazing flip through the trees, and with such fantastic brakes, we actually get it stopped before we go ploughing off. I mean, it definitely awards greatest stunt, I think, of a downhill chaos with that tumble through the trees, and then stopping it before it goes and explores some more of the foliage. I mean, amazingly, we made it down there without very much damage, despite the tumble. Little scratch on the front bumper from that tumble. Yeah, I mean, the Aston Martin, an incredibly fast car, just not got the suspension to be dealing with this course. On to the times, and it is the Aston Martin that is the quickest of all of the vehicles. Not as quick as I expected it to be, though. A 1:24.7. We just lost too much time in the later stages, struggling, trying to deal with the bumps. It's slower than the Karuma, slower than the Osiris. I mean, the Rancher with the off-road suspension is quicker than the Aston Martin. So yeah, a little bit down the order. Still a very, very quick car. And further down, we find the Celta. Well, that is a 1:34.6. It goes quicker than the Windsor and the Hummer. It's not much quicker than the Daewoo, though, and that was considering the Daewoo had a spin and was all over the place in some of the corners. I was expecting the Chevrolet to be a bit quicker in comparison to the Daewoo, but it is still the faster car. And the 2CV, well, we find it well down the order. A 1:45.7. It's slower than the Monster Panto, but it does still beat the drifty cars. The RX-7 the drifty cars, of course, you have so little grip in them. Even with the lack of speed in the 2CV, we're still able to get down the mountain quicker. So there we go. That is it for this Downhill Chaos episode. I'll put a link to all of the mods that I've used in the description so you can download them yourself and have a play around with them. I highly recommend that you do. All of the car models here are really rather cool. But yeah, that is it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.